there were a choice
I don't know.
if there were a choice between Cantina Band and Blue Skies.
They're having fun. You might be actually.
Blue Skies. Blue Skies. Blue Skies.
Skip it. Well, is it right, really?
Or is one band leader
Not too hard.
or is one band leader I used to work with?
When I'm playing outside,
These
I like
guys.
it a lot.
These guys.
Use guys. Use guys.
These guys.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you please find your seats? We are about to start in 8 minutes. Please find your seats. We will start in 8 minutes. Thank you.
quite frankly, I'm kind of happy with the cool weather.
Oh,
It's
it's
hot weather.
fantastic. Yeah. Everyone likes it. Everyone likes it.
Although I do like sun too.
Sure. I mean, to be outside in a suit plane, this is perfect. I like when things are on time.
Yep.
Me too. Punctuality is a very nice thing.
Tell them your slogan.
Yep. You're on time, really.
That's right. Absolutely right.
Because I was on my first lesson in college, I was on time, and he said you're late. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's 3 o'clock. Are you sitting in the chair ready to play? No.
I
Lesson
remember.
number 1, thank you.
I remember a lesson he told me. I asked him, "What's the success to being a successful freelancer?" And he said, "Be on time and bring a music scale." I was expecting him to say something like, learn this scale or learn this scale. And be on time and learn and bring a music scale.
Should we close it?
Actually, best thing he ever told me.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever works for you. I mean, man, it's just here. Like, you want to be in
Including us, right?
guys. You have to make it neat. By the way, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I was like looking like crazy.
No, I wrote it up like 2. It's like for just me to do that. Forgive me for that. Make it so people have a good time.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but someone already may have stepped on your tree. I hate to see that. I mean, like that kid.
Right. That's you gotta leave that.
I have to say seriously, going to Manhattan School of Music taught me absolutely nothing on how to be a professional musician. Nothing.
I feel like I went when I went there. It all depends on who you're teaching. So with the classes that we're teaching, the teachers definitely did.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, being a student in the school.
Right, but that's not. I mean, that's why you have teachers instead of it just being the material. The teachers are there to give you the material and to tell you.
Although actually even the guys in the New York Press Quintet were really not that bad. I think. I don't know about all.
I didn't study with him.
You said he was Howard.
I was the rebel.
I mean, this guy is a long-established
Is he
guy.
gone?
He's not going anywhere.
He retired?
No, I mean
I
Howard.
think-
Is he passed away?
No, I don't think so. He's probably about 70.
Paul Ingram passed away, didn't he? I keep thinking these people. I know John Swallow. Ready?
Okay.
Ready?
Good to go? Ready to go. Okay, here we go.
Board of Trustees, Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Lease, faculty and staff, friends, family, and fellow graduates, good morning, welcome, and congratulations. We're moving up and we're moving out. In our rooms, AP textbooks have been replaced with college pennants and other merchandise. Our backpacks have been emptied, our pencil cases untouched for weeks, and now our names adorned with crimson borders stand proudly outside our front doors, signifying that we finally made it to the end of the race. At least that's what I thought. A few weeks ago, I received a letter from a person whose name I'd never heard before. In it were the words, "Dear Kaylin, congratulations on graduating from Morristown-Beard. My children graduated from there 12 years ago, and the foundation they received in high school has carried them into their careers." Behind the letter was a silver picture frame with the MBS logo and name at the bottom. It was signed, "From your neighbor whom you've never met, Pam." It was then that I remembered my graduation sign on my front lawn and felt a little less apprehensive about the mysterious package I received in the mail. But for a while after that, I thought about the letter, thought about the gift, the fact that she went out of her way to give it to me, thought about her kids, that even after having graduated high school over a decade ago, can still credit a notable deal of their successes to Morristown-Beard School. Then I thought about me, about us, about where we'll be in 12 years, or maybe more, and if we'll be reflecting out the window of our city office or in the middle of a hospital corridor or in the oak desk of our new classroom and think about high school. About our first day of freshman year and entering the new Math and Science Center. About greeting Mr. Caldwell every morning in front of Baird Hall or saying goodbye to him after morning meetings. About skipping to the cafeteria on pulled pork days and schlepping, bellies full and heads empty, to class afterward. About playing in the snow at the dawn of winter and sunbathing on the turf on the eve of our last days of school. About football games, about musicals, about CMWs, about the things we've learned and the people who we've met who've shaped us into the people we are today. I'm taking my silver picture frame to college. Maybe inside it I'll use a picture from this afternoon, though we'll have to see how good the lighting is. Maybe it'll be on my office desk after that, or on a Steinway piano or a bedside table. I don't know. But what I do know is that MBS never leaves you. Family never dies, and our next chapters will be riveting, each and every one of them. So, we're moving up and we're moving out, but we will never move past our experiences here at MBS. Morristown-Beard kinship, as I've learned, extends far beyond the ivory pillars of Baird Hall. So, if you get a silver picture frame from an unknown neighbor with an MBS logo at the bottom, I hope you know it's worth its weight in gold. Thank you.
Welcome to Morristown-Beard School 2021 graduation ceremony. It is wonderful to see all of you here to celebrate the remarkable achievements of this group of women and men. At the conclusion of the ceremony, please remain in your seats until the students have fully recessed. They will meet you on the Alumni House lawn. I am particularly pleased to welcome Abby Giordano, Vice President of the Board, to the podium with me to help hand out diplomas. Abby and her husband, Carl, have 3 wonderful sons who graduated from MBS. I knew them all. Now it is my great pleasure to introduce our first speaker, SGA President Mick Patankar. Mick has led the students of MBS with a disarmingly earnest demeanor, always thoughtful and focused, and with the very best interest of MBS at heart. Mick has represented his peers extremely well and served as an exemplary role model for younger students. Even during this unusual year, Mick has made the most of every opportunity. His love for his fellow students and for the school has never been in doubt. Please welcome Mick Patankar once again.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mick Patankar, and I'm the outgoing SGA president. Ad astra per aspera. Our school motto, our foundation. Hopefully you all know what it means by now, but also what it means to you personally. Literally, it translates to the stars through adversity, but I'm sure it means a lot more to you than just that. I've served as your class president for 3 years and SGA president this past year. However, it wasn't always easy. In my first year as class president, I found that being a leader was more difficult than I thought it would be. Although I was ready to work with my cabinet, sometimes it felt like the only thing that we accomplished at meetings was arguing with each other. They weren't matching my vision, or at least that's what I thought was going on. I wanted to zig, but they wanted to zag. Seeking advice, I turned to Matt Smith, who was the current SGA president at the time. I explained the situation to him, and to my confusion, he just laughed. He tried to explain to me that I was part of a team for a reason. The president wasn't the only one who decided things. 4 years later, that insight holds true. Trusting those around me and believing in them is what has allowed me to continue pursuing what I love to do and deliver events and activities to all of you. Through my difficulties and challenges as president, my team has had my back. I developed close relationships with all of them. I learned more about them and what they could bring to the table. There are countless times where my board has picked me up or covered for me when we made mistakes. What I used to think of as my achievements were now our achievements. And I couldn't be happier about that. I owe a lot of my success to them. I don't know where I would be without them today. They taught me a lot about facing difficulties together and understanding that there is no reason to face them alone. No matter how monumental the task or impossible the problem, my team, my friends, have been there for me. Ad astra per aspera. Our motto details a journey to the stars through adversity. And as I learned, adversity should not be faced alone. I think that our junior year brought that truth to light. I still remember the Thursday before spring break like it was yesterday. I was in the library with my friends during collab, talking about how I was dreading the SAT I had that weekend and discussing plans for the break. We had gotten news about Friday classes being canceled, and we were all thankful for the extra day off. Fast forward to the fall of my senior year, and all I can remember is being thankful for being back on campus. Being quarantined and isolated was awful. It made me appreciate a lot of the things that I took for granted, like being in person for classes, being able to compete on the field, and most importantly, getting to see my friends every day. This wasn't physical adversity, it was mental. It wasn't the same as getting decked onto the turf, or finishing that last lap, or running that last sprint. It was something much more intangible than that. Despite efforts from both teachers and students, virtual school was a challenge we had never faced before, and at times, it felt like it was beating us. Hours felt like days, days felt like weeks, and most unfortunately, we had no clue how long it was going to last for. It was easy to lose yourself in the pandemic, to let the sheer weight of the isolation crush you. But it takes more than that to defeat the Crimson. Our grade and our greater community found hope, and most importantly, we persevered through that situation. A lot of us discovered new hobbies, passions, and some of us even dedicated ourselves to our own personal projects. Instead of just giving into the pandemic, we emerged as better individuals and ultimately a better and stronger community. What stuck out to me was how well we stuck together throughout that quarantine period. We were all going through it together and we were there for each other, but most importantly, we let each other know that fact. Amidst all the uncertainty, we were certain that we had each other. To bounce back in the way that our community did is something special, which I think it attests to our great spirit. I also think that we collectively emerged with a new sense of gratitude. As I mentioned earlier, some of the things that we took for granted before the pandemic became the things that we missed the most, the central thing being the ability to see each other at school. It took a tremendous effort to get us back onto campus, and furthermore, back onto campus safely. I would like to thank the administration, faculty, and all of the other staff around campus on behalf of our class. There are a lot of unsung heroes on campus who don't get appreciation for what they do. Groups of people like the security team, the athletic department, the dining hall staff, and the cleaning staff, who really truly embody the Crimson spirit to persevere as a community. They refuse to let adversity stop them from getting the job done, from making our experience the best that it can be. We are thankful for all of the things that you do, no matter how visible or invisible, because without all of you, MBS is not MBS. Our grade in particular has faced unique challenges, but I think what's important to notice is how resilient we are. Ad Astra per Aspera is not just a motto. It is a challenge and a summons, one that our grade has answered throughout our 4 years at MBS. All those late nights studying, tough practices, and long rehearsals were obstacles that we faced and conquered. It may not have always been easy, but where would we be without that adversity? That feeling of hard work paying off, overcoming a difficulty, that is the reward that Ad Astra per Aspera promises. Think about that game-winning shot the girls' basketball team made in sophomore year. Think about our Men in Cup victories, and even think about the first time that you heard the words "seniors first" at the beginning of this year. I only listed a few, but those moments don't happen without adversity. Rising to the challenge and facing it head-on is a core element of our experience at MBS. When the call sounds, we respond. Think about what we have dealt with this year. Almost all of the fall sports dealt with quarantining, but I bet you could ask any one of those athletes and they would still tell you how thankful they were to be given the chance to play. Some groups had particularly extreme circumstances presented to them. For the first time ever in MBS history, the fall play was held outside despite the freezing weather. The swim team literally had virtual meets, swimming against our own teammates and no other teams in the pool. Indoor track moved to outdoor practices even throughout the dead of winter, and the list of crazy changes to school activities goes on. To me, the phrase Ad Astra per Aspera serves as a testament to my struggles and growth at MBS. In a bizarre way, I've grown to welcome adversity and all the challenges that present themselves to me. That struggle has made me a better person. Fearlessness and confidence are elements of our time at MBS that have grown from comfortability in our own environments. We know that there are people we can always count on, people who will always be there for us. Whether that be friends or family, MBS has helped us discover a particular truth. You'll never know your own potential if you do not put yourself out there, if you do not face risk. To have a support network as strong as ours, where I know my friends will be there for me, where I know that my teachers and coaches are looking to help me, is a gift. Knowing that when I fall down, I can trust in my community to help pick me back up has allowed me to grow into the person I am today, and has undeniably given me the freedom to continue to improve myself. Hopefully, you can all relate to that sentiment. As I look at the crowd in front of me, I think about where we all started at MBS, as freshmen looking to find their roles in the community, and I think about where we stand now. Athletes, actors, singers, dancers, artists, musicians, and activists. Each one of you knows what it took to get to the position that you are at now. My younger sister, Maya, will be entering the upper school as a freshman next year. Her experience will not be the same as ours. No one will ever go through the same things that we did. But nonetheless, we can remind them to live by the school motto. Our high school journey may be finished today, but with our experiences from MBS, we are ready to handle whatever comes next. I'm proud of what I've been able to accomplish while at MBS, but more than that, I'm grateful for all of the help I've received along the way. I hope you all feel the same. Unafraid of what the future holds and exceedingly hopeful, it is only fitting that I issue you all a challenge at the end of my speech. Ad Astra per Aspera. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for coming or watching online. I'm honored to be speaking before you today. What drew me, and I presume many of you as well, to MBS was its core promise, which is, in essence, you can do what you want to do. I'm sure we all remember the stories told at admission events about how a star football player could be the lead in the musical, or how a student who'd never excelled in science could make it to AP Biology by senior year with the help of our Earned Honors program. Stories like these dared us to dream of what we could become. However, this is not the way I approached my academic and personal lives prior to arriving here 4 years ago. I'll give you 2 examples of how MBS changed my mindset. In middle school, I mostly stuck to subjects and activities I was comfortable with, which were, admittedly, quite limited. I played tennis twice a week, enjoyed my math and history classes, and memorized my way through the rest. But after being captivated by a performance by the middle school tap ensemble, which included many members of this graduating class, I signed up for tap as a 9th grade elective, thinking I'd try something new for a change. While the idea of dancing was completely foreign to me, the class became one of my favorites because of Mr. Ruttman's innovative instruction and consistent desire to see my classmates and me succeed at increasingly challenging endeavors. From my experiences in tap class, I not only gained confidence on the stage, I gained confidence in myself. I can say that tap was the class in which I had the least homework over my years at MBS. But I can also say that it challenged me in ways no honors or AP class ever could. Unlike tapping, I'd certainly written papers before coming to MBS, but English was an area where I didn't feel fully comfortable when I arrived here in 9th grade. This changed in my first English class at MBS with Mrs. Caldwell. I took the chance on doing honors, and the increased rigor and intellectual capacity of these assignments pushed me to become a better writer and a better English student. But more than that, it was Mrs. Caldwell's commitment to us that made all the difference. Her dedication particularly shone through in her final comment on a paper I wrote at the end of my first semester. It was not a strong paper of mine, and she could tell that. Here's part of what she wrote. We're good enough friends, so I'm going to be blunt. You include too much plot detail. Your word choice could be so much more precise. Let's talk about it when we can. I was a bit taken aback. This comment certainly was more blunt than most of those I'd previously received, but it was an instrumental first step in my high school writing career. Her mixture of candor and compassion was critical to my growth as a writer and is what makes Mrs. Caldwell and so many of the faculty here so special. I could never have grown in such transformative ways had it not been for the school's unwavering commitment to delivering an educational experience by, for, and of the student. With the type of support the school provides, it's easy to embrace what you can do if you want to. But we often fail to apply that same fearlessness and boldness elsewhere. When we don't take control of our learning and our lives, what you can do if you want to devolves into what happens if you just let it. What you could do if you want to is an attitude and an approach to life that can create tremendous opportunity due to its grounding in doing what one desires. What happens if you just let it is what happens when we're given the freedom and the support to do what we dream of, yet neglect it, resorting to complacency and believing that promise is just around the corner if we carry on with what we've always done. This is an essential distinction. Over the last 4 years, we've used it to build our skills and grow into young adults. We began to learn how much we can control and how much we can accomplish. Over the next 4 years, we must apply it with the knowledge that what we can do with our lives shapes what we will do with our lives more than ever before. The crucial decisions we must make are not distant. They'll challenge us in the coming weeks and months. They span from the massive and the long-lasting, what should I major in, or who should I ask to be my advisor, to the minute and seemingly less significant. Will I take an early morning class in something I've never explored, or an afternoon lecture in something I'm familiar with? When making these choices, think about what you can do if you take charge, and what might become your reality if you fall back into the well-known, well-worn, and easily accepted. That brings me to my larger message. Why have we just spent 4 years learning at MBS? Because more important than any fact or figure is a deep understanding of how it is we understand. It is vital to critically examine our own behaviors and practices, and it is of the utmost importance to be an active participant both in learning and in life. If you aren't, if you sit back and let others do the thinking, someone else might start thinking for you. The voices we hear are the loudest ones, not necessarily the smartest ones. In fact, they're often the least enlightened. The point of pursuing an education, rather than simply receiving it, is to take in what you see around you and evaluate it. drawing your own original conclusions rather than adhering to dogma. Education, if it lives up to its promise, emboldens us to imagine all we can do if we want to, and helps us guard against the dangerous possibilities of what threatens to become real if we just let it. If the power to choose is our greatest freedom, then exercising that power is our greatest responsibility. As we move forward and choose which of life's avenues to take, we must always remember that the value of our education lies not in the diplomas we hang, but in the choices we make. We've done so much over the last 4 years to get to this point. Now we begin a new challenge, a journey that will literally last a lifetime. If we choose the right path, our promise is profound, our possibilities see no bound, and our best is yet to come. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
If you had told me in 9th grade that I was going to be here today delivering this speech, I never would have believed you. In 9th grade, I went to a public high school. I wasn't a bad student, but I liked to keep my head low in big classes that usually felt like lectures. I did what was asked of me, and that was it. That same year, I decided to transfer to MBS. I'll admit that my reason for transferring wasn't academic. It was because of basketball. If people here know me for only one thing, it's probably because I play basketball. I even remember on my first day of school here, Kate Miles introduced me to the grade. I don't recall exactly what she said, but it was something like, "This is Olivia, and she plays basketball." Anyhow, basketball is my thing, and it's been as important to my time in high school as anything else. And I'm happy I transferred to MBS when I did, because during my sophomore year, the year we won the county championships, things really clicked for me on the court. I played point guard, and that was the year that I truly understood what it meant to control the flow of the game, direct plays, and analyze game situations. I realized I had to use my voice more than I initially liked. At first, telling my teammates to screen here and cut through was out of my comfort zone. I feared letting my team down if I were to make the wrong decision. To become more comfortable, I sharpened my court vision by studying different offensive options in response to particular defenses. During practice, I forced myself to be the loudest player on the court. Over time, directing my teammates began to feel natural, and my time studying offensive options in defense paid off. Even though my sophomore season was the year we won counties, I'm just as proud of what the team accomplished this past year. This year's team dynamic was very different from years prior, and that we had the slogan, "We before me," to inspire teamwork. While I made fun of this slogan countless times over the season, I realized in hindsight that this attitude was the key to our success. In past years, we had players with outstanding abilities, but this year we won because of our ability to play well together. We had to come together as a group to win as much as we did, and I felt like I was able to help make that happen. But my real surprise during sophomore year came in school. At MBS, I discovered that my teachers encouraged and expected the same confidence and skills that I was developing on the court. Rather than lectures, classes were discussions, and I found myself inclined to contribute and lead them. And I felt like my teachers and other students appreciated me for what I did. I also realized that at MBS, teachers wanted to know me as a person, which meant wanting to encourage my academic passions and my curiosity. I could meet with them outside of class, and other students were doing the same. They didn't just want me to learn content. They wanted me to ask, why is this the way it is? So I would find myself in the court asking myself things like, why should she cut through now? And why are we playing zone instead of man? And I found myself in class asking the same sorts of questions. why is there a square term here, and why is there a square term in this equation, and why is there a tone shift here? And it wasn't just in class that I was asking those questions. At the end of my sophomore year, I was given the choice to have an extra study hall or do an independent study with my AP biology teacher, Dr. Howells. I jumped at the opportunity and immediately had a topic in mind: plants. I was amazed by the depth of studies in AP Bio, especially learning about how powerful plants are and how much humans depend on them for life. The eye-opening abilities of plants, like their biological clocks and capacity for dormancy, left me wanting to learn more. My fascination for plants drove the experiment I designed, a test of 3 hormones in the growth of green onions. Through close collaboration with Dr. Howells, hours of research, and my prior knowledge of lab basics, I outlined my procedure. After setting up the experiment, I became highly invested in caring for and observing the onions and their roots. I checked in during any spare moment, even scarfing down my lunch to make quick observations before my afternoon classes. I loved having the ability to be in control of my project, but this freedom came with challenges. For example, one of the hormones did not dissolve in the solvent I chose. In order to solve this problem and others that arose, I had to think creatively. Planning, strategizing, and solving problems along the way left me even more appreciative of plant life. When the experiment came to a close, what stuck with me the most was not the final analysis, but how engaged I felt. Never before had my studies been brought to life to this extent. I like to think of myself as confident and driven. I'm also pretty eager to be in control of situations. Maybe that's why I'm a point guard. It's also why I've always preferred to do homework on my own. I don't mind group work in classes, but I've never been one to sit around with friends and work on math problems. I want to go at my own pace and do all the thinking myself. But even when I'm on the court playing point guard, I'm never totally in control. I have to rely on my teammates and study their strengths to work out how we can best play together. There's even a phrase and acronym for it, KYP, Know Your Personnel. Recently, I've realized that even if working on some problems alone is the best way to go, and a lot of really challenging intellectual work, being in control means knowing how to work with others, cooperating, and drawing on their strengths. This past year, I took advanced physics with Dr. Payette. The class consistently blew my mind. In the middle of a unit on friction, a student might ask a difficult, completely unrelated question about black holes that would lead Dr. Payette to explain how the universe really works. There was nothing in physics he couldn't talk about, and there's nothing in reality that isn't physics in some way. Best of all was that, even though physics involves a lot of math, we were regularly given conceptual problems to solve for homework. They weren't a matter of equations. They challenged us to see reality in ways that were usually counterintuitive and sometimes seemed to defy logic. Dr. Payette expected us to see him out of class for hints and nudges and to bounce off ideas, and he also expected us to think together. Rarely would a week go by without FaceTiming my classmates Ari and Mick to talk my way through one of these questions. I was in control of my learning as much as ever, but I was learning that being in control of how and what I understand could mean something I had not expected. I can imagine another high school version of myself where I played basketball on a club team and eventually made varsity, and was a pretty good point guard. But at MBS, I grew into myself and discovered my voice academically as well as athletically. And I saw that the person I was on the court didn't need to conflict with the person I was in the classroom. I realized that I could be true to myself in both places and would be stronger everywhere as a result. MBS has made that possible by being endlessly supportive, stimulating, and in the best way, a bit weird. Everyone here seems to get that when people are themselves and follow their passions, they can do some pretty cool things. It's been a special place to spend most of high school. Thank you.
Members of the Board of Trustees, Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Lease, faculty and staff, friends, families, and fellow graduates. Good morning. A few weeks ago, I was tasked with finding a gift which epitomizes the class of 2021's Morristown-Beard experience. This was a daunting task, to say the least. How do you find a gift which can even be mildly representative of the time we've spent here, the challenges we faced, or what we've accomplished? I struggled to do so until the idea came to me at perhaps the worst possible time. A few weeks ago, I was performing in the musical, and in the middle of my song, when I probably should have been focusing on my lyrics, my attention was drawn elsewhere. At the end of the second row, I saw Mr. Caldwell on the edge of his seat, listening intensely to every word. It was in that moment that it occurred to me what our senior gift should be. Mr. Caldwell embodies nearly everything positive the class of 2021 has pursued over the course of our time here. He was there as we tried, as we failed, as we succeeded, and as we started anew, with the same characteristic smile on his face, and perhaps more importantly, with the same appreciation for every moment we shared together. It is that appreciation which Mr. Caldwell has imparted to us during our time here, though it seems a little bit more pertinent this year. We as the class of 2021 can likely identify with the need to reflect and appreciate the opportunities around us more than any class which came before us. To say that our experiences have been unique seems like an understatement. Yet, in spite of all the challenges we faced over the past 18 months, our class has pushed on, taking advantage of every opportunity presented to us before we turn to the next chapter of our lives. Mr. Caldwell has been there every step of the way, from the sidelines of our games to singing some of the right notes to the Hallelujah chorus during the winter concert, to examining rhetorical devices in his language of leadership class, to keenly listening in the second row during Sweeney Todd. In his support of our pursuits, Mr. Caldwell not only reflects many of the best attributes of the class of 2021, but has become one of us. As a result, we were so excited to welcome Mr. Caldwell as an honorary member of our class just over a month ago. And as an honorary member of our class, it only seems fitting that we support his endeavors and passions just as he has done for us time and time again. So I return to perhaps the most valuable lesson Mr. Caldwell has imparted to us. Within us, he has instilled an appreciation for the people, the environment, and the opportunities around us. In other words, a deep and enduring appreciation for the Morristown-Beard School. The best gifts that we could ever give as a class is simply doing our small part to allow more students to feel that same appreciation. Therefore, we will be donating the remainder of our class budget to the Peter J. Caldwell Scholarship Endowment Fund. As Mr. Caldwell himself said, there's no greater gift one can give a child than the gift of education. We as the class of 2021 are proud to contribute to that gift in honor of a head of school, a teacher, a fan, a mentor, and a friend who embodies what we love about the Morristown-Beard School. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It is an amazing feeling to be here celebrating the journey of the class of 2021. If you remember, our first class meeting this year took place on Convocation Day out on the softball field. I was clean shaven at that point, so if anyone is looking for a physical representation of what it looks like to age over the course of a year, particular focus, the camera can zoom in if it wants, the large gray area at the bottom. But the stress and sacrifices and gray hairs have all been worth it because we're here today at your graduation. Throughout this year, as I met with teachers, parents, and students, one of the lines that I heard most frequently was, "What a year you chose to come to MBS." Almost as though I should have had some idea of what was coming. But I know what they meant. They were empathizing with me about this idea of being new somewhere with all this upheaval around us. And what I began realizing and what I began telling people was that everything seemingly had to be done in a new way anyway, so I was in fairly good company. Like everyone else, I learned a lot about myself. I learned about things that were important to me, things that I could compromise on. I learned some new skills, many of which I hope, and if I'm being completely honest, I never have to use again. For example, as luck would have it, I have a small freckle on the inside of my left forearm that is exactly 6 feet away from my right fingertips when I stretch my arms out. So I told a friend of mine this, and he said, the Avengers are going to really want you. Contact tracing and social distancing. Regardless of this, there were times this year when I will readily admit to being frustrated, to being tired, maybe even feeling a bit defeated. And whether you realize it or not, at those times, I drew my strength from you, the class of 2021. You see, as much as I couldn't have anticipated that my first year at MBS would look the way that it did, none of you could have expected the same of your last year. However, individually and collectively, yours is a class that refused to let those circumstances define your experience. Now, let's not rewrite history. I say this in front of your parents and guests, and I say it with nothing but love in my heart. You weren't perfect. For those of you with siblings, they've known this about you for quite a while. But that's okay. Like all of us, there were missteps along the way or things we wish we could have done differently. But to paraphrase a colleague of mine, you're kids. You're supposed to make mistakes. And if we, as adults, don't expect that, then perhaps we've forgotten our own experiences from when we were growing up. Later this year, I was asked whether the development of our students had perhaps been stunted because there were so many restrictions and less freedom than they were used to having on campus. And I saw things a bit differently. This year, we asked our students to take on more responsibility for our community than we ever have before. And as seniors, our expectation was that you would lead that charge. And that's exactly what you did. This year, you demonstrated that you are ready for anything. You are ready to tackle the challenges that lie ahead. You are ready to remain optimistic, regardless of the situation you're in. And you're ready to be leaders no matter where you might find yourself in the future. So as we gather here today, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for making my first year at MBS as special as it's been. In the future, if someone asks me what it was like to start at MBS this year of all years, I will tell them that I would not have it any other way. I will always be grateful that yours is my first graduating class, and I hope that you and your families feel an immense sense of pride in all that you've been able to accomplish. And what you have been able to accomplish has been quite impressive. So it is my privilege at this point to highlight and recognize some members of the class of 2021 whose efforts have distinguished them amongst an amazingly talented group of graduates. First, the Cum Laude Society is a national organization which recognizes superior scholastic achievement at the secondary level. The contributions to our school by these students through their tremendous efforts in the classroom and beyond have afforded them membership in this select group. Our hope is that they continue to contribute to the communities to which they belong as they further their education and impact those with whom they come in contact. I'd ask the 13 students to stand as we recognize their induction to the Cum Laude Society earlier this year. Please hold your applause until all the names have been read. Ari Bursch, Hannah Blake, Justin Green, Anil Kalan, Sarah Karbachinsky, Sam Kasman, Terrence Longo, Kimberly Magnata, Kate Miles, Olivia Amelchuk, Mek Patankar, Timothy Shitroma, and Kaylin Williams. Congratulations. Next, we'll recognize the notable academic performance of several individuals. While these recognitions are based on numerical calculations, their effort, their engagement with their teachers and peers, and their desire to seek out new challenges has produced the results which we acknowledge here today. First, we recognize the class valedictorians, for which this year, as you know, we have 2. These students attained the highest grade point average for their junior and senior year. Please join me in congratulating the valedictorians for the class of 2021, Ari Bursch and Olivia Amelchuk. Next, we will recognize our senior class leaders, the students with the highest senior year GPA. I'd ask them to please come forward when their name is called. The class leaders for the class of 2021 are Ari Bursch, Justin Green, Kate Miles, Olivia Amelchik, and Caitlin Tartaglione. The Thompson D. Grant Award is given to the student with the most improved grade point average from the end of the junior year to the end of the senior year. The Thompson D. Grant Award for Most Improved GPA is presented to Matthew Francis Manchell. Matthew, please come forward. The Dickinson W. Richards Cup, in memory of a wise counselor and devoted friend of the Miss Baird School, is awarded annually to that senior girl who best exemplifies the qualities of character, scholarship, leadership, and service. This year's recipient has an academic resume which speaks for itself, achieving at an incredibly high level in a number of our most challenging courses. But beyond the classroom, she sought opportunities to lead and serve throughout her time at MBS. As the co-founder of the school's chapter of UNICEF, this student organized fundraisers and spread awareness of inequities in healthcare for children around the globe. When faced with the cancellation of the service trip to Panama during her junior year, she and her friends turned their attention to issues closer to home by organizing a mass drive for local healthcare workers. As both a team captain and peer leader during this past year, this student looked for ways to commit herself to supporting and enriching the experience of her peers and the broader school community. It is my pleasure to award the Dickinson W. Richards Cup to Kate Miles. The Hillis Citizenship Award in memory of Albert Fisher Weber Jr. is presented to that senior boy who best exemplifies the qualities of character, scholarship, leadership, and service. This year's recipient also achieves at the highest level in his classes, but his teachers comment most about his innate curiosity and his willingness to engage deeply with the material. A surface-level understanding is never his goal, and countless classes have benefited from his quest to examine any number of topics. Additionally, the student has committed himself to both informing and uniting the MBS community, serving as co-editor of the yearbook for 2 years and as editor-in-chief of the Crimson Sun, our school newspaper. He also spearheaded the movement to name Mr. and Mrs. Caldwell as honorary members of the class of 2021, a testament to his desire to connect as many people within our community as possible. I am pleased to recognize Ari Bursch as this year's recipient of the Hillis Citizenship Award. Our next 2 awards are presented to students whose academic prowess is only partially captured by their final grades, which also happen to be very strong. The William H. McBride Prize is presented by the faculty in honor of Bill McBride, a teacher of science at Morristown-Beard from 1977 to 1996. The prize recognizes a student whose academic rigor, enthusiasm, and curiosity serve both as an example to other students and as a reminder of the spirit and dedication of Mr. McBride. A love of learning for learning's sake is what characterizes this year's recipient, but beyond that, a love of learning to make an impact on those around him. Having traveled extensively throughout his life, it is clear that this student developed a unique understanding of who he was as both a person and as a student. One of his teachers once stated that his work, and I'm quoting, depicts a fluency and elegance that is on par with what I would expect only from those students who truly understand the deep and underlying concepts and reasoning behind a subject. Beyond this incredible work in the classroom, the student helped lead the Matheny Club, a group which organizes volunteers to work with adults and children with special needs. When the faculty gathered to discuss the award recipients, several teachers stated that the McBride Prize seemed perfect in describing this year's recipient, Anil Kalan. The William C. Mules Prize, given by the faculty in honor of Bill Mules, head of school from 1992 to 1998, is awarded annually to the senior who reminds us most of the qualities that Bill Mules brought to the school: a passionate love of learning and a fascination for an enormous range of facts and stories. This year's recipient has interests across our entire curriculum and beyond, and his insatiable quest for a deeper understanding of all these interests is what truly sets him apart. His teachers describe his energy and enthusiasm in class, as well as the philosophical approach he takes to his work. He never shies away from debating a topic, but listens and considers new ideas as intently as he defends his own opinions. In completing his independent study earlier this year, his advisor shared, "His insatiable curiosity and relentless intellect made this semester an inspiring experience. I hope that he got half as much out of it as I did." I am pleased to present this year's William C. Mules Prize to Will Sriri. Our next two awards recognize one of the qualities which we value the most: growth. As a school, we want to do our best to inspire our students to reach their full potential, and it is our privilege to recognize these students for doing so. The Lucy C. Baird Award is presented to that girl in the senior class who has shown the greatest all-around improvement. Never one to shy away from a challenging course or a new topic, this year's recipient has challenged herself to explore courses across the curriculum. Described by one of her teachers, who may be sitting right here, as meticulously prepared and willing to engage, this student is particularly adept at forming connections between the various topics discussed in class. Her own experiences have likely helped her develop a unique perspective, which makes her contributions all the more meaningful. She is also a talented performer, having contributed significantly to the success of our theater program during her time at MBS, most recently in her role serving up some mysterious meat pies to her unsuspecting customers. I'm pleased to present this year's Lucy C. Baird Award to Evie Mitchell. The Burke Wilkie Trophy is awarded to that boy in the senior class who has shown the greatest all-around improvement. One of the great added bonuses for the faculty at MBS is having the opportunity to teach a student multiple times throughout that student's time at the school. This year's recipient of the Burke Wilkie Trophy had several teachers who were fortunate enough to experience this. They describe a student who, over their time knowing him, has seen his confidence grow, his sense of self become more defined, and his eagerness to engage with challenging concepts and ideas increase year over year. His sharp intellect and unique perspective have helped this student stand out in the minds of his teachers. I'm pleased to present this year's Burke Wilkie Trophy to Jay Pruitt. Our next awards highlight students whose tremendous character has made them uniquely impactful members of their class. The Michael W. Ranger Award is presented by the faculty in honor of Mr. Ranger, a former parent and longtime board member who served as president of the board and whose extraordinary leadership transformed our school. The Ranger Award is presented to that senior who best exemplifies the qualities of leadership through humility, independence of mind, and self-motivation. This year's recipient has been motivated to succeed in all that she does since arriving at MBS in the 10th grade. Her performance in her courses has been at the highest level, and though she has never been motivated by grades or accolades, she has done exceptionally well in both areas. While she readily admits to her competitive nature, her teachers comment on how graciously she works in the classroom, displaying her analytical mind while remaining open and encouraging to others and their ideas. She demonstrated the same approach and commitment to success in her athletic endeavors. Her basketball coach commented specifically on her ability to balance her internal drive with her role as a leader amongst her peers, serving as an example of the consummate teammate. I'm pleased to recognize Olivia Amelchuk as this year's Ranger Award recipient. The Mrs. Thomas W. Caldwell Cup is awarded for consistent, conscientious volunteer service to the school community. This year's recipient has made it his mission to impact the MBS community in every way possible. He has served as a Crimson Ambassador and a peer leader. He has been a class officer and has fully immersed himself in every co- and extracurricular program which we offer, and even served as a middle school teaching assistant as part of his independent study. All of these efforts contributed to helping him grow as a student and as a person, but they were also uniquely focused on the experiences of others. Recognizing this student would not be complete, however, without mentioning his association with a particular club. As the founding member, he is likely more associated with this club than any student is with any club that we offer. So please join me in congratulating the founder of our Quiz Bowl team, Timothy Shitroma, as this year's recipient. The Philip L. Anderson Prize is presented to that senior whose enthusiasm, energy, and interest in the welfare of fellow students has served to promote a sense of school spirit within the MBS community. The award is given by the faculty to honor the service of Philip L. Anderson, head of school from 1974 to 1992. This year's recipient is described by teachers and classmates alike as someone possessing incredible kindness, who consistently looks to put the needs of others before himself. He does this because it is genuinely who he is, and it is what he has displayed throughout his entire journey through MBS. Through his role as a Crimson Ambassador and a peer leader, he has interacted with and guided other members of our community through various points in their own MBS experience. Through his work as a member of the Student Government Association, he has worked alongside his fellow officers to find ways to make this year of challenges unique and special to the entire student body. Please join me in congratulating this year's recipient of the Philip L. Anderson Prize, Jared Pine. Our final two awards are of unique significance, as they are the only awards given today whose recipients are chosen by a vote of the senior class and then affirmed by the faculty. The Nancy Carolyn Hoyer Memorial Award is presented to the senior girl who has been judged by her classmates to have best shown the qualities exemplified by Nancy of personality, integrity, responsibility, and school spirit. This student began the year by sharing her thoughts with the entire student body in a speech given from the founder's stage. Her message touched on many of the ideas about what makes the MBS community so special, and then proceeded to dedicate herself to fostering and building our community throughout the year. Whether through her leadership of GLOW or BFI, or simply by displaying a positive attitude regardless of the situation, this student has made a lasting impact on her classmates and the MBS community as a whole. Please join me in congratulating this year's recipient of the Nancy Carolyn Hoyer Memorial Award, Sarah Karpaczynski. We can either blame the humidity or chubby fingers, but my pages got stuck together, so there's one other award. Well, blame me. The Hauserman Award is presented to that senior who displays sincerity, compassion, and consistent dedication to those qualities best exemplifying human character. This year's recipient is a driven student, a gifted artist, and a talented athlete. While she always works to perform at her best, she is equally committed to helping ensure that her classmates do the same. She served as a peer tutor in both an official and unofficial capacity, with her chemistry teacher suggesting that she may have helped as many students in their class as he did. Her senior project involves creating scientific illustrations, which not only combines her various interests, but also provides a necessary resource for the school to help in our work with students moving forward. She is always quick to offer help and does so out of a tremendous sense of kindness. I'm pleased to present this year's Hauserman Award to Hannah Blake. And now the final award. The Arthur Lee James Award is given in memory of a devoted teacher, coach, musician, and department chair, and is presented to a senior boy judged by his classmates to best exemplify the qualities of integrity, responsibility, and school spirit. This year's recipient is a leader, someone who sees a challenge and figures out how to attack it. Given the restrictions present for much of this year, he had plenty of challenges to keep him busy. His goal through all of this was to make sure that every student got as much out of their experience at MBS as possible. And this work went beyond his role in the student government, but as a leader on the athletic field, as a co-chair of a subcommittee of the Racial Justice Task Force, and as one of the students I could certainly count on for advice and a meaningful opinion whenever it was needed. I am pleased to present this year's Arthur Lee James Award to Mick Patenkar.
He's right, it is humid. How's everybody doing? Mrs. Giordano, faculty and staff, parents, grandparents, alumni, friends, and most importantly, seniors, welcome. We gather each year at this time to reflect on the academic year just completed and to honor and say farewell to the graduating class. This is a time for looking forward and for celebrating all that you, class of 2021, have accomplished. Take in the pageantry. This is the very last time that you will be together as a class. It has been quite a journey, and I would like to begin by thinking about the favorite memories that you shared at an all-school meeting a few weeks ago. All of your MBS memories involve being with your classmates, like sliding on lunch trays during a snowstorm, winning back-to-back men in cups, the chariot races, hanging out in advisory, the opening night of cabaret, running through the student center during a snow squall, storming the court after the girls won counties in basketball, supporting friends during athletic contests, having lunch with friends outside on the turf field, laughing with friends, winning the state title in girls hockey, or being greeted every morning as you walked into school. These human connections and relationships are the moments that sustain us and bring us joy even amidst adversity, challenge, and hard work. With the class of 2021 high school memories in mind, I'm going to offer a short reflection on my career in education and what I propose is vitally important in a communal place of learning. When I was a new teacher in 1980, Call Me by Blondie, and perhaps more familiar to you, Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Queen, topped the music charts. We listened to music on the radio or on a Sony Walkman or cassette. The movie The Shining had just been released. The Pittsburgh Steelers won the Super Bowl for a second year in a row. That was before the Patriots dynasty. And the Philadelphia Phillies won the World Series. In education, if we wanted to give students a handout, we would go to the Ditto machine. If we wanted to show the students something, we used an overhead projector, and we listened to speeches on a cassette recorder. And of course, to communicate information with students, we used the chalkboard. A lot has changed since 1980, especially last spring, when he expanded our technological toolbox so that we could teach through Zoom and keep you engaged through multiple ever-changing apps like Notability and Video Physics. But today, I would like to focus on what has not changed in the world of education. What has not changed is the significant role human connection plays in education. We know from experience and research that if a teacher shows a true personal interest in a student, the student will more likely work to their full potential. This connection can run deep, and I'm going to give you an example of my own life. While my three children finally got me on Facebook in 2010, who do you think were the first people who friended me? The students from my very first teaching job. And here's the clincher. They friended me 30 years after I taught them. I shudder to think at what kind of teacher I was then. I certainly did not have the pedagogical skills that your teachers at MBS possess. I was teaching in a subject that I had majored in, which was history, but not in my area of expertise. My students were only 4 to 5 years younger than I, and I stayed one night ahead of them in the reading. And yet, the messages that I got from them spoke to the relationships that we had developed at a very basic human level. Somehow, through my teaching, coaching 3 sports, and supervising these students 6 out of the 7 nights a week in the dorm, we developed a bond and a connection that has lasted now for 40 years. Returning to the present, I feel quite strongly that over the last year and a half, when activities that we took for granted were snatched from us, we were able to find meaning in unexpected ways. For many, our top priorities became getting reacquainted with family by going on walks, playing board games, working out in the basement. By prioritizing health and well-being, we can achieve other goals, such as educational goals and career goals. So while a lot has changed in regard to the technological tools at our disposal, the most important element of teaching, the human connection, remains the most powerful. As I end my final graduation speech, I would like to return to a question that I asked students 10 years ago in November 2011 during my installation. What do I want you as students to remember from your time at MBS? When you think back on your years here, what will you take with you? Here are my hopes. I hope that you will take with you your clear sense of self that your teachers foster in you every day. I hope you will take with you an appreciation for the value of hard work in and of itself. I know you will do this because I've seen you happily roll up your sleeves and stretch yourselves in the classroom, on the athletic fields, and on the stage, senior circle, or quad, even while wearing masks and speaking through plexiglass. I hope you will continue to nurture a passion for giving to the greater good, and this starts with giving to each other in small moments every day. Just last week, I walked to the dining hall for my customary bagel and sunflower butter. I was generously greeted by cheerful and happy students, and it struck me how much I will miss these small daily rituals with all of you. As has been so eloquently stated by our students, my ultimate hope for what you will take with you is the ability to cherish the present, these small moments. It is the present that offers us the ability to create. The present is malleable. It is here with us now. Seize it and shape it. Mrs. Caldwell and I are so proud to be honorary members of your class. Congratulations to the class of 2021.
Good morning. It is my pleasure to present the diplomas to the class of 2021. Matthew James Aiello. Bridget Curtin Atkins. Justin Samuel Axelrad. Grace Elizabeth Barnett. Sylvie Claire Bastardo. Anthony Joseph Bernardo. Ari Edward Bursch. Hannah Mackenzie Blake. Paul Alexander Barugi. Emma Bampton Bisaki. Jack Paul Butler. Matthew John Butler. Peter Christian Michaels Kasha. William M. Casano. Kobe Chili Connell. Luke Campbell DeAndrea. John Nolan Degnan. Gianna Marie DeMathis. Michael Andrew DeSantis. Charlton Pratt Erba. Ashley Sarah Ellsworth. Faith Amber Ficini. Griffin Brooker Factor. Stephanie Ann Fernandez. Campbell John Fernandez. Benjamin E. Ferrier. Jacob Charles Fishman. Genesis Flores. Matthew C. Francis Manchel. Avery Claire Garland. William Anthony Gatwood. Jolie Kailani Golden. James Bradley Gordon. Justin Scott Green. Abel Guzman. Brandon K. Hawks. Zion Noel Hobbs. Ethan Hong. Alexander Carl Hopman. Logan Orion Yeager. Deja Zane Johnson. Major Jones IV. Anil Singh Kalon. Seth Harrison Kaplan. Sarah Mariah Kabaczynski. Samuel Jack Kasman. Peter James Carney. Ava Jade Leifa. Emily Ann Lebovitz. Lily Erin Lindstrom. Nicholas John Lombardi. Tristan Milu Long. Terrence Ryan Luongo. Kimberly Lynn Magnotta. Erin Elizabeth Martin. Margaret Claire Matthews. Matthew John McIntyre. Luke Amon McManus. Catherine Manning Miles. Henry J.T. Miller. Joining us virtually today, Alexandra Rose Miskowitz. Evie Joy Mitchell. Rachel Shayna Monastersky. Alec Ram Nagpal. Dara Okuzu. Naluka Okuzu. Olivia Marcella Omelchek. Benjamin Robert Pierre Opont. Ernesto Fabio Oviedo Bermudez. Mikhail Patanka. Jesslyn Marie Patricia. Sean Christopher Polinsky. Jared David Pine. Annabelle Pace Plant. John Moffett Pruitt. Isabu Ramos. Ryan Christopher Recupero. Jessica Lee Reddington. Samantha Alexis Rivera. Samantha Mary Rizzo. Alexander Shitato Roth. Reagan Altman Russo. Joelle Angelina Rusamano. Timothy Michael Shitroma. Samantha Blue Schornstein. Robert Scrivo, Jr. Rodney Senecal. Catherine E. Sengel. Jackson Robert Shepard. Ella Cameron Singer. Aaron Michael Skolnick. Catherine Spence Selecki. Lily Isabella Solomon. Madeline Ray Sperling. William David Sreri. Brianna Taylor Stewart. Sydney Brooke Strollo. Michael Jacob Stolberger. Gregory Robert Sutton, Jr. Lucas Oliver Swanson. Caitlin Elizabeth Tartaglione. Isabel Sophie Dearman. Sophia Maria Velastro. Manu Vapuk. Chloe Brooke Weinstein. Kaylin Collette Williams. Samuel Benjamin Wilshinsky. Andrew Connor Walbrook. Thomas Ryan Walbrook. Zachary Zimberg. Please join me in congratulating the class of 2021.
Members of the board, Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Lease, faculty, friends, family, and fellow graduates, hello. The first time I stepped on senior circle was not as a senior. It wasn't even as a junior who wanted to mess with the seniors. It was as a 7-year-old to watch my oldest sister's graduation. And I remember my first step on senior circle not because it was my sister's graduation, sorry Janice, but because I was surprised to stumble on a plaque that reads, Halley's Comet Time Capsule, February 10th, 1986, open in 2061. I'm certain quite a few of you walked by the same plaque on your way in today, most without knowing. For anyone who did notice, however, maybe you shared a similar wave of emotion as my 7-year-old self. First, curiosity, and then fascination. There were people who found a way to freeze and preserve time. I had stumbled on a buried treasure chest, a piece of history. As I stand here today, 10 years later, I still am fascinated by the time capsule. However, alongside curiosity and admiration, I feel a kinship with the class of 1986. Our class may not have a comet to commemorate. Our only historic event is a pandemic. But I would argue that we have time capsules all over campus. That's because you don't need a time capsule or even a plaque to capture the importance of a place or event. My Morristown-Beard time capsule is filled with memories from Mr. Meadzerman Middle School and the image of fright on Mrs. Erickson's face after seeing the huge plastic bug Ava and I planted on her seat. It is filled with the frustration of struggling through a math problem and the anxiety of waiting to see how my friends and I did on a project. It is filled with joy when a classmate becomes a friend because FaceTimes to compare answers become hours of endless laughs. It is filled with sunsets after sports practice and blaring music on the bus. It is filled with game days and homecomings and musicals and hallway high fives and little pieces of gossip. And from each of these moments I have learned, and I have grown, and I can now appreciate what they all mean to me. In 2061, when the time capsule on senior circles opened, members of our class will be nearing the age of 60. We will have lived out careers and started families. For many, our years of high school will be a blink of a memory that seems a distant time. The people we will be, and the people we are today, will always reflect our time here, however. That's because we each cross paths with people and places so special that once we continue forward, we never think the same. Likewise, we each have the capacity to meet a person and leave them changed, or frequent a place and leave it a happier environment. For some, those experiences may have taken place in the dance studio dressing room before a show. For others, it was in the locker room before a game. Maybe it was the first time you stepped in the CID, or one of the hours spent after school meeting with a teacher. There is a place on campus where each of us have our own time capsule, our own memories and moments that define how you got here and the person you are and want yourself to be. Perhaps the best part about all of this is that we're not done. Yes, high school is finished, and we'll never walk the halls like they're ours again. In fact, most of our lives, there will be moments where we don't even think about high school, and our minds are prompted with different thoughts. That doesn't change the fact that our time here was impactful and at times uncomfortable or even dreadful, but nonetheless precious. The thing is, these experiences are easy to forget. In fact, I suspect most of you are surprised to know that there is even a time capsule on Senior Circle. So, I'm going to prompt you all to think, to bask in the silence for 30 seconds and transport yourself to a time so precious or so memorable that you can imagine every detail. Even if it's something that happened today, relive it in your mind. We don't have to lose the memories. As I say goodbye to MBS, if I could put one more thing in my time capsule, it would be gratitude. To our teachers, thank you. You've touched the hearts of many of the students sitting here. To the parents, we thank you for allowing us all to come together at this amazing place for the past 4 years. And most of all, To my 109 classmates that make up the class of 2021, thank you all. I've learned much about honesty, confidence, persistence, and individuality, not from the classroom, but being surrounded by you all. I ask that you hold on to your time capsules, that you remember the faces and names that you owe gratitude for, making you the person that you are. It is therefore with much love that I wish the best to all the graduates, alongside their families, and proudly say, for certainly not the last time, go Crimson.
Now for my final request, we're going to do something a little unusual, which seems fitting given the nature of this year. I would like for all of the graduates to join me up front so that you can acknowledge the class of 2021 as a group and celebrate their collective achievements. If those of you who are sitting close to the stage can move back a bit, that would be great. We will recess. You can meet them on the lawn of the Alumni House.
So it's like everybody's already going to be there. It's like, why even bother? What's that? Yeah. I mean, there really is going to be no recession. Yeah, because the families are leaving. Well, that we should be.
If we need to repeat, let's repeat back to C. Okay. And hopefully one time.
You know, there really is no recession because everybody's leaving.
They were,
Well, you're not the first person to tell me that.